What if the most unsettling parts of yourself, the ones you desperately hide, are also the most powerful? That, my friends, is the unsettling pull of the shadow. The shadow, a concept deeply explored by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, is a fundamental part of our unconscious mind. It's the psychological equivalent of a hidden attic or a forgotten basement within our personality, containing all the aspects of ourselves we reject, deny, or push away. Think about it. The repressed desires, the primal instincts, the simmering weaknesses, the parts of our personality we consider negative, undesirable, or simply not me. These hidden traits don't just disappear. They influence our behavior and emotions in ways we often don't even realize. Jung himself said, "Unfortunately, there can be no doubt that man is on the whole less good than he imagines himself or wants to be." Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Powerful words, right? He's telling us this isn't some rare phenomenon, some quirk of a few disturbed individuals. It's universal. Every single one of us, from the most saintly to the seemingly most depraved, carries this unseen burden. And the more we ignore it, the more potent and potentially destructive it becomes. To truly understand the profound impact of the shadow, let's delve deeper into how it forms and affects our lives. From a young age, we begin to learn the rules of engagement. We're taught which behaviors, thoughts, and emotions are acceptable to our family, our peer group, and society at large. We're told, "Don't do that. Boys don't cry. Be polite, even if you're angry. Don't be selfish. Be strong." These aren't inherently bad lessons. They're essential for social cohesion and personal development. However, what happens to the parts of us that don't fit neatly into these prescribed boxes? We push these unacceptable traits, these unloved children of our psyche, into our unconscious mind. We repress them, deny their existence, and pretend they're not part of us, and thus, the shadow grows. It's like sweeping dirt under a rug. It's still there, just out of sight, ready to trip us up or gather into a much larger, more unsightly pile. Imagine a young boy, naturally sensitive and artistic, who is constantly told to man up and suppress his emotions. He learns that vulnerability is a weakness, that crying is shameful, and that expressing his artistic inclinations might make him seem soft. So he shoves those weak feelings and creative urges deep down, where they fester and grow. That's the birth of his shadow. It holds not just his rage and sadness, but also his vulnerability, his authentic creativity, and his innate capacity for deep empathy. These are not inherently negative traits, but in his formative environment, they were deemed unacceptable. Jung articulated this perfectly. If an inferiority is conscious, one always has a chance to correct it. But if it is repressed and isolated from consciousness, it never gets corrected and is liable to burst forth suddenly in a moment of unawareness. The shadow isn't some stagnant thing, a dusty relic of childhood. It's alive, it's active, and it yearns to be acknowledged. It's a dynamic force within us, constantly seeking expression, constantly trying to make itself known, even if that expression comes in disruptive or painful ways. Understanding that everyone carries a shadow helps us recognize its profound, often subtle impact on our daily lives. It's the reason we might self-sabotage right before a promotion, unconsciously fearing the responsibility or visibility that comes with success. It's why we might erupt in anger over something seemingly trivial, when the true source of our rage is a deep-seated, unacknowledged frustration or feeling of powerlessness. It's the root of our most unsettling projections, where we see our own disowned traits vividly in others, judging them harshly for the very qualities we cannot bear to admit in ourselves. It fuels our anxieties, and often, our greatest fears. Consider the person who constantly criticizes others for being lazy or irresponsible. On the surface, they might be highly disciplined and organized, but beneath that veneer, their shadow might harbor a deep-seated desire for rest, for freedom from responsibility, or even a hidden fear of failure that drives their incessant need for control. They project their own disowned laziness onto others, finding it intolerable in the external world because they've deemed it intolerable within themselves. But here's the thing, the shadow isn't something to be feared in the conventional sense. It's something to be understood. It's a fundamental part of who we are, not a separate entity or a demon you can banish. It's not a monster you can slay. It is you. It's woven into the very fabric of your being, a dark tapestry intermingled with the lighter threads of your conscious personality. Think of your personality like a house. Your ego, your conscious mind, is the well-lit living room where you entertain guests. You've meticulously decorated it, keeping it tidy, showcasing the best version of yourself, polite, put together, successful. But what about that locked basement door, the one you avoid looking at, let alone opening? That's your shadow, and what's locked away down there? It's not just the rage and insecurities, but often the suppressed dreams, the unlived adventures, the hidden talents and passions deemed unacceptable or impractical by the outside world. Maybe it's a desire for radical freedom, a yearning for creative expression, or a deep capacity for tenderness that was shamed out of you. Jung identified two main types of shadow, the personal and the collective. The personal shadow is unique to you, shaped by your individual experiences, traumas, and repressions. It's that manly boy's buried vulnerability, the people pleaser's stifled anger, the perfectionist's hidden sloppiness. These are the traits you've personally disowned because they didn't fit into the persona you presented to the world, or because they were actively discouraged during your development. It's the road not taken within your own psyche, the unexpressed potential, as much as it is the bad parts. But then there's the collective shadow. This is where things get significantly darker and more unsettling. This is the shadow we inherit from our families, our cultures, our entire species. It's the shared human capacity for violence, for cruelty, for blind tribalism, for irrational hatred that we've inherited from our ancestors. It's the primal instincts that lurk beneath the veneer of civilization, the darker side of human nature that manifests when societal structures falter or when fear takes hold. Jung himself witnessed the terrifying eruption of the collective shadow in his lifetime, with the rise of Nazi Germany. He saw how easily otherwise ordinary people could be swept up in a tide of hatred, prejudice, and violence. Their individual personal shadows, perhaps containing repressed aggression or a desire for power, fed into a collective darkness, becoming amplified and legitimized by the mob. The good German, who simply followed orders, was, in Jung's view, deeply entangled with the collective shadow, projecting all evil onto the other and denying their own complicity in the atrocities. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is getting a little too Lord of the Rings for me. But think about it. Have you ever witnessed a mob mentality, whether online or in person? That sudden eruption of rage, that willingness to dehumanize and turn on someone for being different. That's the collective shadow at play, a primal, often terrifying force that can override individual morality and reason. And here's the scary part. Just like your personal shadow can sabotage your best intentions, the collective shadow can sabotage entire societies. It can manifest in wars, in genocide, in systemic oppression that lasts for generations, in the rise of authoritarian regimes, and in the dehumanization of entire groups of people. It's not just a historical phenomenon. We see its potential simmering in polarized societies, in the spread of misinformation, and in the ease with which online echo chambers can radicalize individuals. So, let's talk about how the shadow plays out in our lives, because it's not always as dramatic as a world war, is it? Sometimes it's far more insidious, whispering in our ears, tripping us up when we least expect it. Ever found yourself inexplicably drawn to someone who embodies the very traits you claim to despise? That's the shadow's allure. We project our unacknowledged darkness, our disowned qualities, onto others. Then, we become either captivated or repulsed by what is in essence our own reflection. The intense emotion we feel is a clue. If a person or a trait triggers a disproportionately strong emotional reaction in you, whether it's intense disgust, irrational anger, or even obsessive admiration, it's highly likely that your shadow is involved. You're seeing a part of yourself that you've exiled. Remember that manly boy who suppressed his emotions? Now he's a successful businessman, driven to succeed at all costs, a seemingly unflappable titan of industry. He might find himself inexplicably attracted to a free-spirited artist, someone who embodies the creativity, emotional openness, and non-conformity he suppressed for so long. Or perhaps, conversely, he can't stand to be around lazy people, constantly criticizing those who take breaks or lack ambition, even though he secretly yearns for more downtime and less pressure himself. In this case, his shadow is judging his own repressed desires for rest and freedom in others. This is the shadow's game, projection and judgment. It's far easier to point fingers and label others as toxic, selfish, or incompetent than it is to confront the uncomfortable truth that those same qualities, or the potential for them, reside within us, waiting to be acknowledged and integrated. And the longer we ignore it, the stronger it becomes, operating behind the scenes, subtly directing our decisions, relationships, and even our health. Our unexamined shadow can manifest in a myriad of ways, some surprisingly common. Addiction. Seeking escape or comfort in substances or behaviors can be a way of numbing the pain of unacknowledged aspects of self. The shadow might be seeking attention through compulsive patterns. Self-sabotage. Undermining our own success, happiness, or relationships, often at crucial moments, can stem from an unconscious belief that we don't deserve good things, or a fear of the unknown that accompanies growth. Chronic negativity or cynicism. A pervasive pessimistic outlook can be a defense mechanism, a way to keep the world at arm's length and avoid vulnerability, which might be a disowned part of the shadow. Controlling behavior. An excessive need to control others or situations can be a desperate attempt to suppress internal chaos or feelings of powerlessness that reside in the shadow. People-pleasing. While seemingly positive, an inability to set boundaries or say no can mask a fear of rejection, a repressed anger, or a deep insecurity that prioritizes external validation over self-respect. Physical ailments. Jung himself observed that many of his patients' physical symptoms, chronic pain, digestive issues, insomnia, unexplained fatigue, were directly related to unresolved psychological conflicts. Their bodies were screaming what their conscious minds refused to acknowledge. The repressed energy of the shadow found an outlet through somatic complaints. Here's another common example. Ever notice how easily we fall into patterns of blame and victimhood? It's not my fault, it's them. The shadow loves to play the victim. It's a convenient way of avoiding responsibility for our own actions, choices, and emotional responses. By externalizing the problem, we avoid the uncomfortable process of introspection and accountability. We relinquish our power, preferring to see ourselves as helpless rather than confront the potentially difficult aspects of ourselves that might be contributing to our situation. And this is precisely why understanding the shadow is so crucial. Because once we can see it, once we can name it, we take away its power. Here's the thing about the shadow. It craves the light of consciousness. It wants to be seen, heard, integrated. Jung believed that the shadow wasn't inherently evil, but rather a source of raw, untamed energy. It's only when we deny or repress it that it becomes destructive. When we ignore it, it doesn't go away. It simply operates from the dark, influencing us in unpredictable and often detrimental ways. He compared it to a wild animal. If you try to lock a wild animal in a cage and pretend it doesn't exist, eventually it will break free, often in the most volatile and destructive ways. Think of a caged tiger, pacing, growling, its natural instincts warped by confinement. But if you learn to approach it with respect, to understand its nature, to acknowledge its power, you can even tame it and harness its immense energy. You don't try to make the tiger a poodle. You learn to live with its wildness, perhaps even to ride it. So, how do we do this? How do we integrate something we've spent our lives avoiding, denying, or even condemning? It begins with awareness. This isn't a quick fix or a one-time revelation. It's a lifelong process of self-discovery, compassion, and courage. Steps towards shadow integration. Pay attention to your triggers. Start by becoming a detective of your own emotions. Pay close attention to those disproportionately strong emotional reactions, moments of irrational anger, intense envy, profound shame, or disproportionate judgment towards others. The next time you have a strong emotional reaction to someone or something, pause. Instead of immediately reacting, ask yourself, what is it about this person or situation that's triggering me so intensely? What part of myself am I seeing reflected back that I find unacceptable? Is it their ambition, their vulnerability, their carefree spirit, their aggression, their perceived laziness? These reactions are not about the other person. They are about you. They are signposts to your unexamined shadow. Journaling, your private confidant. This is an incredibly powerful tool for shadow work. Start tracking those moments of strong reaction, those recurring patterns of self-sabotage, those visceral feelings of discomfort or repulsion. Don't censor yourself. Write freely and honestly about your darkest thoughts, your most embarrassing desires, your deepest resentments. The act of writing them down brings them into the light of consciousness. You might be surprised by what you uncover, not just the negative traits, but also suppressed creativity, a yearning for adventure, or a powerful inner leader. Ask yourself, what did I do today that contradicts my ideal self? What qualities do I despise in others? What am I secretly ashamed of? What compliments do I find hard to accept? What am I afraid others will discover about me? Dream analysis, a direct line to the unconscious. Jung called dreams the theater of the unconscious, where the shadow often takes center stage. Our dreams are not random. They are symbolic messages from our deeper self. Start paying attention to your dreams. Keep a dream journal by your bed. record recurring dream characters, unsettling scenarios, or intense emotions. Often, the figures in our dreams who scare or repel us are manifestations of our own shadow aspects. What do these characters represent? What actions do they take? How do you feel about them? Engaging with your dreams can provide profound insights into what your unconscious is trying to tell you about your unacknowledged self. Embrace paradox and contradiction. Acknowledge that you are a complex being, capable of holding seemingly contradictory traits. You can be both kind and angry, generous and selfish, strong and vulnerable. The goal isn't to eliminate the quote-unquote bad parts, but to integrate them, understanding that they are aspects of a whole, complete self. Recognize that even seemingly negative traits have a positive opposite or a driving force behind them. Anger, for example, can be a protective force. Laziness might be a deep need for rest. Arrogance might mask profound insecurity. Practice self-compassion. This process isn't always comfortable. In fact, it can be downright terrifying at times. Facing your shadow means confronting the parts of yourself you've judged as unworthy, unacceptable, even monstrous. Be gentle with yourself. This isn't about shaming yourself further, but about understanding and acceptance. Imagine talking to a frightened child within you. What would that child need to feel safe enough to reveal their hidden fears or desires? Treat your shadow with that same compassion and understanding. Seek professional guidance for deeper or more challenging shadow work, especially if you uncover significant trauma or difficult psychological patterns. A therapist or Jungian analyst can provide invaluable support and guidance. They can help you navigate the complexities of your unconscious safely and effectively. The liberating truth is this: the moment you shine the light of consciousness on your shadow, it loses its grip on you. It can no longer control you from the dark, whispering insidious suggestions or orchestrating self-sabotaging behaviors. It transforms from an enemy into a potential ally, a source of untapped energy and authenticity. When we integrate the shadow, we don't become better people in the sense of being perfectly virtuous. Instead, we become more whole. We become more authentic. We reclaim disowned parts of ourselves, allowing us to live with greater integrity and vitality. This integration leads to increased self-awareness. You gain a much deeper understanding of your own motivations, reactions, and patterns of behavior. Greater empathy. By accepting your own human flaws and darkness, you develop a profound compassion and understanding for the struggles and imperfections of others. You realize that we are all on this journey, grappling with our own inner landscapes. Authenticity. You no longer need to pretend to be someone you're not. You can embrace your full self, light and dark, leading to more genuine relationships and a more fulfilling life. Reduced projections. As you integrate your own shadow, you'll find yourself less reactive to others, less prone to judgment, and more capable of seeing people as they are, rather than as reflections of your own disowned parts. access to hidden talent and energy. The shadow often holds creative potential, raw energy, and unexpressed desires that, once integrated, can become powerful forces for good in your life. The rage can become assertive action. The vulnerability can become deep connection. True personal power. When you're no longer controlled by unconscious forces, you gain true agency over your life. You can make conscious choices rather than being driven by hidden fears or desires. Jung believed that the journey of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming a whole, integrated person, is impossible without confronting and integrating the shadow. It's not about becoming good or perfect. It's about becoming complete. It's about accepting the totality of who you are, the saint and the sinner, the light and the dark, the hero and the villain. Knowing that all these facets contribute to the rich tapestry of your unique being. This journey of shadow integration is challenging, often uncomfortable, but ultimately immensely rewarding. It is the path to true self-mastery, to living a life aligned with your deepest truth, and to understanding not just yourself, but the entire human condition with profound depth and empathy. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it thought-provoking, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. I love hearing from you, so drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. Share this video with your friends to help spread the word and spark deeper discussions about the human mind and existence. What aspects of the shadow resonate most with you? And what steps might you take to shine a light on your own unseen self?